My name's John Wilton. I'm a retired architect from live in Chichester. I found out about the project through my wife. She's involved with the South Downs Singers, and there's many of the same people involved in that as this project. And she told me about it last summer and asked if I was interested in coming along to it as she was, so I agreed to come along. Most interesting for me probably has been the historical aspect and learning about various aspects of local history that Chris Hare's been talking about, and I've enjoyed singing, learning some new songs. Heard of Belloc obviously before, but I didn't really know anything about him. The South Downs Singers sing much the same, it's all about local traditional songs, so it might be, depending on quite what it's about and who it's about. But yes, I think someone must have told me right at the beginning that they'd got some lottery funding for this project, so I was aware, yes.
My name is Anne, and I'm a folk singer. I sing in several bands already, but I belong to the South Downs Folk Singing Choir, and so naturally we heard about this and thought definitely we'll come along. I think it was publicised through the South Downs Folk Singers Choir, and then of course there were emails and websites to look at. It's probably coming along, talking about someone who's very topical and local in an environment that reflects him very much. The beautiful Rusper Church is part of what he's all about. I think that's probably part of it. I think the project came up to our expectations. It's always a surprise, and of course the audience in these things is as much fun as the presenters, and we enjoyed that aspect a lot. I probably do know more about the life of Hilaire Belloc than I did before. He's certainly an enigma in many ways and a difficult man in other ways, but very interesting nevertheless. I had heard about Lucy Broadwood because being a folk singer in Sussex, we sing a lot of her songs, and she's very local to us, which is an interesting thing to know about. We were talking as we came into this project that actually Kipling is a very good topic, so it was interesting to hear Chris had already thought about doing a Kipling project. I think we knew it was lottery funded because we've been on other courses run by Chris and Emily and his wife Anne that have all been lottery funded, so we guessed he was pretty good at doing that, so it's probably much the same.
Oh, my name's Alan Wheeler. I'm background as work, you mean? I suppose I'm an immunologist, but I've been interested and played and sung folk music for decades. So when I get involved with Chris and his wife and Emily some years ago, I joined in and hope I can add something to it through the South Downs Folk Singing Choir. That's how I learned about this project. The most interesting thing I was more about Lucy Broadwood because I was brought up locally in the next village in Newdigate, and in fact Lucy Broadwood's great nephew lived locally in Lyne Estate, and he was one of the benefactors of my local primary school. And so I was interested in that, but also I'm just interested in learning new folk songs. There's a lot more to be learned, as we heard about both of them, especially Lucy, because Chris and Emily have been looking at the diaries, and of course it's very extensive, and you can never learn it all. But I'm mostly interested in her collecting and the songs. Some of them, certainly Lucy's. Some of the others, actually, I play in a folk band, and one of them we've turned into a tune that we play with instruments. So, yes, I will carry on with some of the songs, and I expect they will be included in our choir, our folk singing choir. I'm interested in another Sussex poet, and I wanted to talk to Chris about it, being interested in what I think is the best Sussex poet. Charlotte Turner Smith. She was around at the end of the 18th century, and in fact I believe Wordsworth actually visited her because he based some of his work on her work. She's very little known and very little understood, and I'd like to learn more about her. The funding from this project comes from the National Lottery, but I also think there's something from the religious side, from the church side involved. So I don't know.
Well, my name's Judy Robinson. I've been singing with the South Downs Folk Singers, and it was through that group that I heard about this series of workshops. We have learnt some lovely songs. That's obviously the most interesting thing. And then a lot about the life of Belloc and Broadwood, and that's interesting. And it has led me in my U3A art group that I run to actually take Belloc's book, The Four Men, and use that as the basis of a project. And there's going to be a day at Sussex University, which the U3A is, the Sussex U3A groups are running. And so I've got this little art exhibition, which is going to be our contribution. And so I found that the book had so many different characters, and the animals in the song, his hide is covered with hair, and so that it made a wonderful topic that people could choose different aspects of to do a little artwork. I certainly have learned a lot about the lives of both Belloc and Broadwood. Belloc I knew a little about before, but Lucy Broadwood was completely new to me, so yes, it's been a most interesting. Yes, we will carry on singing a lot of these songs. I would be interested. I'd have to check with my husband if he minds me disappearing for Saturdays once a month, but yeah, I'm sure I would love to do it again, yes. A project about Kipling and his songs would be definitely a great idea, all that Sussex connection and so on. I believe the Heritage Lottery Fund were involved in the funding of the project, and that's all I know.
I'm Steve Wealthy. I come from Worthing. Known Chris for quite a long time, so I got associated with Chris probably when we were involved with a previous project to do with sort of South Down folk songs. It's my introduction to folk singing, really. So I have now become fully integrated, if you like, into the folk circle. Again, probably knowing Chris, and word gets around. So I don't think it was from a website or anything like that. It was word of mouth. And we couldn't wait to be associated with that. The bits I found most interesting is the singing and the harmonies. So I'm interested in Broadwater and Belloc and all the culture that goes with it, and particularly the history about folk song collections.
I'm sure you said Broadwater.
Broadwater, I probably did, because I live.
Absolutely. I just suddenly caught it. It was a nice answer, and I thought, I could best stop. Just ask the question again, Joe.
It's the singing really I find most interesting. Although the cultural background is extremely interesting with Belloc and Lucy Broadwood. I guarantee that I carry on singing these songs after this is all finished. It's the same way if I carried on singing all the songs from the South Down folk singers from the previous project that Chris ran. I would always be interested in a further project. Yes, I love the singing. I love the whole culture and the history behind this. My idea of a future project is, I suppose, it is more of the same. Give me more. Give me more. It is such a catalogue of folk songs out there. It's broadened out from Sussex, it's broadened out from, I just want the rest of the world, basically. The funding of this project, as far as I'm aware, it's the Heritage Lottery Fund. So I thank them very much for this opportunity. I would have been happy to do this for money, actually, but to have it, as a freebie, then it's brilliant.
Well, my name is Geoffrey Bragg. I've come here to myself. I've retired aircraft engineer, and this is completely foreign to me altogether. I think it was Chris Hare who sent out the information on an email to the people that he's already in contact with. What have I found most interesting about the project? I like the singing. Learning to sing is, as I say, it's not something that I've had a very strong habit before, which is interesting, and all the nuances of that. But also learning about the Broadwood and Hilaire Belloc has been fascinating as well. So I'm liking both the history and the singing. I definitely wish to carry on the singing afterwards, yes, definitely. And maybe even some of the research into Lucy Broadwood's diaries. I would most definitely be interested in a sort of project afterwards, especially if it's run by Chris Hare and Emily. I understand the project might be Kipling, which would be absolutely fine for me. There may be other ones that I don't know about, but yeah. The funding is the Heritage Lottery Fund, isn't it? Yes, so I am aware of that, yes.
So I'm Lindy, and I love singing, but mostly I love folk singing because I don't think I'm a very strong singer, and I just like the emotion of singing songs about life. I learnt about the project because I was very fortunate, I did the very first South Downs Folk Singers workshop. So I learnt about it because I was on the mailing list for this and was always hoping there'd be another one that I could join. I couldn't join the Secret Shore, but I found this one, was free to do it, so signed up. What I found interesting is the diversity between the Lucy Broadwood songs and the Hilaire Belloc songs, which tend to be a little bit raunchy or perhaps sort of slight fantasy sometimes you're thinking, whereas the Lucy Broadwood really evokes the spirit of the time and of people in a very genuine way. It's really lived up to my expectations because apart from that, I feel I've learnt something more about, say, England or rural England at that time. Just the mere fact of singing with a group of people in a very informal but well-directed way means that you go away from the workshop feeling nourished and feeling happy, and when I'm out walking the dog I sort of sing the songs to myself. It has been I could get quite emotional, it's been a really important part of my life for the last 6-7 months. I've learned that Belloc is as quirky as I thought Belloc was, and Lucy Broadwood I didn't know very much about, but it sort of brought her to my attention, her and her life and her works. I would love to come to a similar project in the future, should one be available. I think maybe something based around another author or poet or works of a person, Kipling, something like that maybe. I do know that it is funded by the Heritage Lottery Fund. I believe I was told at the very beginning, and I remember that from the previous workshop I'd done. So I've been very much in favour of that, and even when I buy my own lottery ticket, I'm always aware that part of my money goes towards funding for various community things.
Yes, my name is John Wintle. I am from East Preston in West Sussex, and I've lived in Sussex all my life. Well, I learnt about this project through my wife, actually, who's done a number of these projects before. So she wanted me to kind of come along and see what it was about, and she knows I like singing a bit, so she said, okay, come along, have a bit of a sing and see how it goes, really. The stuff that's interesting about the project is all the different things that you learn in this instance about Belloc and Broadwood, and their background, and also how they've influenced various different songs and kind of life in the area in general. The project certainly has come up to my expectations. I was unsure what it was going to be about to start with, but every different workshop we've had throughout the whole course has been different, varied, and you learn something new each time. I think we would definitely go on singing the songs, because quite often when we go out for a walk somewhere to actually learn them, we've been just singing along as we walk along. Some of them certainly we'll be carrying on with the singing. I think if another project in the future came up, we'd certainly be interested in giving it a go. What the future projects may be, I don't really know. I think we'll wait and see what comes along and go for it at the time. I believe these projects are being funded by the Heritage Lottery Fund. In my opinion, I think that's a good use of funds, and it enables a lot of different people to have experiences that they may not have been able to partake in otherwise.
Hi, I'm Claire. I am a music and French teacher at a school for kids with special needs in Brighton. I was involved with a previous project that Chris and Emily ran called Secret Shore, which was sea shanties and sea songs, and I wanted to learn more of the songs from Sussex and those of Hilaire Belloc, because I was interested in him as a writer. I found out loads of things that I didn't know about Hilaire Belloc. I've learnt about the Broadwoods and the collection of the songs, and I learnt to sing them, which was fantastic. I enjoy the singing the most. I enjoy singing with a group of people, all different ages, from all over the place. I enjoyed the fact that I was somewhere new, coming to Worthing to do it. And I enjoyed the places that I got to see, like here in Rusper. That's been really great. I've never been here before. Certainly, possibly in the pub, who knows? Definitely, yeah, I really would. I really enjoy the context, the history and the background, having access to that I can't usually get if I just look at songs on their own. So there's a really strong sense of place and a really strong sense of purpose when you're learning something that is specifically about the place that you're singing them. So I really like having that to hang all the knowledge and all the understanding and the singing on, the kind of contextual background to everything. So I'm sure that whatever Chris comes up with next will be just as interesting. So I understand it's Arts Council that's funding this one, and the lottery. I hope that's right.
My name's Fiona Whitaker, and I'm an assistant head teacher at a school in Goring in West Sussex. Well, I'd already been involved in the Worthing community play with Chris and Anne. And then I was part of the sea shanty group with Chris and Emily. And then when I found out that they were doing the Belloc Broadwood, I decided it was too good an opportunity to miss. It really came up to my expectations. It was wonderful. The most interesting thing has been finding out about the history of the songs, the way that they were created, the way that Hilaire Belloc used the folk singing tradition to create his own songs, and also the way that Lucy Broadwood collected the songs, and the fact that we're singing them in the church where she collected them is wonderful. The bit I've enjoyed most has been learning the songs and in particular the harmonies, and putting it together with a large group of singers of varying experiences. Because I'm a teacher and I work in a primary school, I've already started teaching a couple of songs to my children, so it will definitely be passed down the generations. Having been involved in 3 similar projects, if there were any projects to come up in the future, I would be first in the queue. I don't have any bright ideas, but anything that's to do with the locality and the history of the area and the what they call the intangible cultural heritage, the bits that get passed on without necessarily being written down, that's the bit that I'm really interested in.